today on a special Chief Chat where we will pay tribute to Clayton Makepeace. As we know, one of the greatest copywriters of our time, of just about any time. I'm very confident that Clayton's works and his teachings will be devoured for generations to come, for people who discover copywriting, who want to pursue copywriting. It will be, his work is essential. And so I'm honored today to have some good friends join us who have agreed to come on and share some memories and some lessons they learned from Clayton. David Deutsch will join us, Lori Haller, Marcella Allison, and maybe others, all who worked very, very closely with Clayton over the years, who had, Clayton had an incredible impact on their careers and their work. And I know that they shared great friendships. So if you'll bear with me just 1 second, I'm going to attempt once more to go live on Facebook, because I do want this to be shared and joined by as many people as possible, because I think it's important that we have ceremony and everybody's doing their best to cotton the shocking news. So if you'll bear with me 1 second. Facebook wants me to title this. I'm going to follow Zuck's rules. Okay, here we go. Thank you very much. So let me start with, I want to hear other people's stories. I'll share my story, the first time I ever met Clayton, and some other things as we go. But I want to start with Marcella Allison, because I know she has other obligations. And I think the first time I met Clayton, Marcella was there. And as you know, Marcella's a great leader of copywriting, champions women in business with her Titanides group. Now you're making me sad just seeing you, Marcella. We can't do this.
I know you gotta.
I know.
Yeah.
I know this is very hard, so thank you so much for agreeing to come on and be vulnerable. And I know the emotions are still very raw for everybody, but especially for those of you who were so close with Clayton over the years, worked together on many projects. And I feel it's important to point out up top here that we can't honor Clayton without also honoring Wendy, Makepeace.
Yes.
They were inseparable. I never saw one without the other. They were true partners in business, in life, in family. And I just, maybe you'll have something to add to that, but I felt it important to mention Wendy right now. We're all thinking of her and the kids.
For sure. That's where I went first, actually. You know, there's so many things that Clayton was a part of, right? So Clayton trained Paris, and then Paris trained me. So when I first became Paris's cub, and the first event that I paid money to go to was Clayton's big event in Washington, D.C. And I had just started as Paris cub. We all decided we were going to go together. And that was the first time when I got to meet Clayton in person. And so Paris, of course, gave Clayton credit for really being his mentor and teacher. And that's when Clayton jokingly decided to call me his granddaughter, which of course, Wendy and I are looking at each other and I'm like, she is not going to like this, right? But Wendy just rolled with it, right? Because, you know, here she's like, right, I got a granddaughter who's like 50, you know, but anyway. So I loved that about him. And if you haven't gotten a chance to read Carlene Anglade Cole's email that went out yesterday telling her story, the one thing she said was that Clayton ended every conversation, every call with, I love you. And that is how he was in the world, right? He was very loving and giving and generous. And so when the news, I just stumbled on the news on Facebook, like most of
Right.
us did. I said to Wendy, I sent a little post to Wendy and I said, the thing I'll remember the most, even though he is a wealth of knowledge and I have benefited so much from that and could go on and on about the things I got from Paris and then that he had me go back to and learn from Clayton. The thing I remember is sitting at a table at a small dinner with Lori Haller, David Deutsch, Paris, Clayton, and Wendy, where Clayton told the story of falling in love with Wendy.
Oh, wow.
And and Wendy's interjecting and the two of them are laughing and going back and forth. And the piece that I remember that had me cracking up so bad is, well, two things. First of all, Wendy's boss, the head of the company, flies down to basically have the "what do you think you're doing with my daughter" talk with Clayton. So he's
Wow.
describing this whole
Wow.
thing, right? Because Wendy's this beautiful young woman and the owner of the company is sort of like, so what are your intentions towards Wendy? And I guess this is great when Clayton's telling it. So then she's going to move down, right? They're going to be together. And he's so excited that she explains to us that he has told everyone, like, in this little town, like the grocery store and the dry cleaner and like everyone, Wendy's coming and how excited he is. She
Wow.
goes, so I get there and I will go into a place and the first thing they'll say is, "Oh, you must be Wendy." So I
Wow.
said to her, of all the things he taught me, the way that he loved and appreciated everything that she did and the way that he always gave her equal credit
Yeah.
for building up Phillips, for all those launches that they did together. He always talked about how brilliant a
Hmm.
marketer she was. He showed that he loved her with everything that he said. And I said, I think there's nothing more attractive as a man in love with his wife. And so of all the things he taught me, the way that he gave her credit and publicly acknowledged how much she meant to him, I think is the one thing that my romantic heart is going to hang on to for
Yeah.
the rest of my life. Even when all the copywriting lessons have gone into senility, I'll remember how he talked
That's
about
beautiful.
Wendy.
That's beautiful, Marcella. Thank you for that. I know you worked with him a lot in various ways, maybe directly on some projects, certainly through AWAI, and spoke on those stages together.
He was the first person who put me on stage.
Is that
So the
right?
first time um, he had an event in Denver, he had an event in Siesta Key, he had one at the Tampa airport. Every time he invited me to speak. Sometimes it was to do a financial thing, sometimes it was to tell a story, but he was the very first person who asked me to speak, and he did it along with Paris and David. So he put me on a stage with my mentors
Hmm.
and gave me sort of equal billing. And that was huge for my self-confidence and for how I perceived my place in the industry, to be put on a stage like that by
Yeah.
someone like Clayton, to be asked by him as a favor in this email, would you come and speak? I was blown away. I was blown
It's
away.
beautiful. Yeah, that reminds me of the first time, I think this is the first time I met Clayton. There was some situation where an event had to be moved or last minute or something was going on. I remember it was maybe at an airport hotel or something. I don't know if this rings a bell to you, but
That was where the Tampa event was. It was at an
the
airport
Tampa event,
hotel.
I thought it was here in Tampa. Okay, so
Either that or Atlanta. Who knows? I've lost my mind.
I think it
Okay.
was Tampa because I think that's why I was there. And I know Paris a little bit, so I just went to say hello to everybody. And you were there, and everybody was so lovely, and we're all kind of sitting around the airport hotel bar there. And Clayton, I just remember him talking to you and David and Paris because you had all scrambled to come and be part of this event, and he was just going on and on about how appreciative he was to you guys. As my first impression of Clayton was him being very
Yeah.
appreciative of his peers. And he said, if is there anything you need, anything you want from me, I will give it to you. Thank you for doing this. And Paris said, I'll take Paris said, does that include the Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar? and because Clayton owned the last guitar that Stevie Ray Vaughan ever touched. He bought it
Oh
at an auction.
God.
And Clayton, you could tell he was so serious in his intention to give back that he said, is that what you want? Like, you kind of hurt him a little. Like, but he was going to give it to him. He was
like, you really need this, dude?
He was going to follow through, but he was really hoping he was joking.
Oh God. Oh my God. Well, the first time I posted to raise money for the National Alliance on Mental Illness, after we'd been through everything with my son, I posted a little story, and we had a little, like, the email, you get an email when you got a donation. And, I'm asking people, can you send $25? Can you send $50 or whatever? I don't even think the thing was up 5 minutes, and I got a text from Clayton and Wendy, and Clayton had just sent $1,000 just like that. I mean, I was blown away. I mean, I was just blown away. He was like, whatever I can do. You're exactly just like that. Like, whatever I can do to help. And I feel like he's been that way in his legacy with copywriters. He's always wanted to promote them, to empower them, to give them the tools. He often talks about how he came from nothing, right? And he wanted people to have this as a way to make a better life for themselves,
I think that was his thing. Like, he was so amazed that he discovered, like many of us are when we discover copywriting, wow, there's a thing. Who knew about this? I think I can be really good at this. And then you get fascinated with it, and then you get obsessed with it, and then you go on a lifelong journey to try to master it. And I think that's more than anything what he wanted to give people was, there's this possibility out there. And if you're right for it, it could be magic in your life.
Well, that's a lot of what Carleen Cole's tribute was about, is about how he changed not only her life, but then the life that she's given to her children, right? And she talks about the difference that made for her personally, right? And how that, like, is a gift that you can never pay back. And I think the other thing that's been coming up a lot in my group as we're telling Clayton stories and thinking about him is his ability to use that common language. Like, he never lost touch with how a common man speaks, even to abbreviations, right? And chopping off words and just talking as you would talk to each other. And this way that he could really tap into our deepest emotions, I think, was just, I will never forget, he at one of these events, he was going through the chart where you go, so why, right? So you start with because he wants to make money in the stock market. Well, why does he want to make money in the stock market? Well, he wants to impress his wife. Well, why? Like, it just went through this whole thing until it gets to the end. And what seemed at the first like, well, he just wants to make money for retirement, turned into he wants to take his wife on the trip of a lifetime around the world, like, to show her how much he loves her, to be the provider because he wants to prove, right? Like, the way that he could go so deep into those motivations. And I see it in Carleen's legacy because she has that ability to do it also. Just watching him riff on that. And the scene I remember was him describing this guy taking the check to the bank and handing it to a young woman who was the teller, and how he slid it under and what he said to her about depositing it. And he just embodied that whole, and now all of a sudden it wasn't this guy saving for retirement. I had this picture of him walking into the bank with the check and being like so confident, and the provider and the whatever, and handing the check to her to deposit, second one this week, Mavis, or whatever, and then walking out.
Right.
And it was, he just seemed to do it so naturally.
Yeah.
He just seemed to be able to, like that. I'm just in awe of that ability to do that so naturally, to walk in another person's shoes, his language, his way of speaking. It was just It was a gift. It wasn't a,
yeah, and imagine the details. It's the details that sell the story, right?
absolutely.
And again, to have that level of empathy, that is what's required to pull that off.
And that's why
Marcella,
he made was such a huge success, was
yeah,
because he could go there, and it was genuine. It was not false empathy. It
no,
was a
right,
genuine concern. It was a
yeah.
genuine concern.
All right, Marcella, I want to respect your time because I know you have a lot of things
Thank
going
you.
on today. Thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you for
really,
inviting me. It was a pleasure. I don't feel like, I feel like there's so many others who have so many stories, but
I
thank you
know.
for letting me share my experience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you, and I
All
love
right.
you.
Okay. Chin up. Chin up. We're going to. All right.
See you. You'll never not laugh walking away from Marcella, no matter how heavy things get. She will always make you smile. I love it. Our great friend David Deutsch, again, generously agreeing to come on and share some thoughts. I know David worked very close with Clayton on many projects over the years, and they were very close friends as well. Hi, David.
Yeah. Hi, Kevin.
How are you, friend?
I'm doing okay, all things considered.
Yeah, you're holed up there in North Carolina at home.
Yeah. Nothing much has changed. It's still, us copywriters are all introverts, so we
Yeah.
have been avoiding people for ages. So
You've been social distancing long before
I've
it was
been social
recommended.
distancing long before it became popular.
Well, it's great to see you, and you got the quarantine beard coming in. So
Yeah. I
that's
wasn't
nice.
quite expecting this, so I didn't have time to shave. So
Well, I
I got
appreciate you doing this. And again, I know emotions are raw, and you were very close with Clayton. What's been top of your mind since you heard this news?
just I think how much Clayton's writing and what Clayton was like as a person were so tied together. Clayton's was full of life. His writing was full of life. Clayton was a compelling person to talk to, and his writing was compelling and interesting to read. The joy of life that he had, I think, was part of his secret in a way as to how he wrote. Like Marcella was sort of saying a little bit, that his writing is from the heart, and he lived life from the heart. And,
Yeah.
it was something when I think of Gary Halbert, I think the same way. Gary wrote very much like he talked, very much like he lived.
Right.
And Clayton was similar in a different way. His style is very different.
Right.
I miss that. I miss Clayton's writing. I miss Clayton as the person, and they're kind of tied together for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And he really loved this industry, this business we were in. Fortunate to have a lot of casual time with Clayton, lunches and things at different events. And that's what he wanted to talk about. He had incredible stories to tell. The Gene Schwartz story, which I won't repeat publicly, and because I don't know if he'd want that, but I don't know if you recall the project he did with Gene in anyway.
No, I don't know that story. Is there a cleaned up version of it? Or?
It ended up being sex instruction tapes.
And
you remember that story?
Familiar.
And they forgot and left them out, and then the kids were very quiet during a party, and like, where are the kids? and they went in the room and like, oh, I found the tapes. So anyway, hilarious. And he just loved to talk about the business, to talk about the numbers, to talk about the controls, to tell the stories behind the controls. He'd really found his life's calling in this.
Yeah. I was very envious of his love of writing, because writing is a little bit more of a chore for me, and he loved writing. He loved putting words on paper. And I think that was also partly, he loved people, and writing was communicating with people, like Marcella was saying about understanding what people want. Part of that comes from, that's a good thing to do, and it helps you write better. But part of that comes from, it's just natural for Clayton to understand people and to understand what they really want. They don't really want money. they want to be able to impress their wife and be a good husband and a good provider.
Yeah, right. What's any insights, the backstage stories of Clayton's method, during a project? Did you guys work on projects together, like on sales letter, on packages together?
I don't know. Never really worked on a project with Clayton. We kind of were peripherally connected on certain things. He critiqued some of my copy, and it was that, I still retain the lessons from that. But, I think his secret, like someone once said to Richard Feynman, who was a great physicist, Dyson Freeman said to him, "Richard, I know your secret now. You think and think and think very deeply about a problem until you solve it." And that was kind of Clayton. He really, he thought deeply about things that, other people, myself included, sometimes don't really give a lot of thought to.
Yeah.
Don't give a lot of thought to what someone really wants, right? This can help you make a lot of money. Okay, fine. This can help you make a lot of money. And we write that, and we forget to really just sit and think, what does this person want? What is this really about? What am I really selling here?
Yeah. Is that what his critiques were like? Would he tend more to point out, think harder about this, or go deeper on this? What kind of feedback did he tend to give, as opposed to people like Carlton or others?
His feedback, like him, was more from the reader point of view.
Yeah.
What he's feeling at a certain point. I'm bored here, or I'm not believing this,
Yeah.
It was how he reacted as a person to the copy. And I think that's always the best critique that someone can give you about copy.
No doubt about it.
Is,
Yeah. Is there a Clayton control that you think about, study, go back to when it's
that this powder prevented a heart attack. That one? For
I'm not sure I do.
This 23-cent powder, the heart attack that didn't happen, or something like that. It was for a pill that it has a chelating process. It gets the stuff out of your body, the bad stuff out of your body, just like chelation does.
Right.
Except it does it by a pill. And he demonstrated it by, the pill, mixing it with, in the urine or something, and you could see the actual calcium that would have gone into your heart and caused a heart attack. And it's a wonderful, it was so successful. There's a wonderful part of it too, where he dimensionalizes that, because basically it was about not having a heart attack, but he dug deeper and found that it was also about, when you get calcium out of your bloodstream, right? Not only does it clog the arteries in your heart, it clogs the arteries to your brain, right? And so it affects that. It clogs the arteries to your sex organs, so it affects your sex life. It clogs the arteries to your kidneys and to your whole, it affects you in so many ways. And he spelled that out. And I think, again, that's that digging deeper. That's that thinking deeper. He's like, what else does this do? Let me extend this out a little bit.
Right.
Think more about this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Kind of like what Marcella was saying, what does that mean? Well, what does that mean? Well, what is that?
Right.
Yeah, that's such an important thing to remember for all the copywriters who will see this and are with us now. Never stop at the surface, or even 10 feet below the surface. Just keep digging to what is the true emotion we're driving at here. And what does that look like? How do you dimensionalize that, right? As Paris likes to say, tell it to me as if I was watching a movie of it, what would I see on the screen?
Right.
Make it visual, bring me into that moment.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot to be said for thinking more like a screenwriter than a copywriter.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Don't just give me, the study found. Show me the scientists gathered around being astonished at the results of this incredible herb, or whatever it is.
Right. Awesome. David, thank you, man. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing.
Of course, thanks for doing this, Kevin.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's last minute, but I think it was the thing we need to do right now. So stay safe, and I can't wait to hug you again someday.
All right, you too, and me too.
All right, brother. Take care.
Okay.
David Deutsch, everybody. The great David Deutsch. Awesome. So if you are in Copy Chief, we have a tribute thread going. I shared the video, which you already have access to as a member of the complete talk between he and John, the panel we did at the first Copy Chief Live. It was really cool. It was the first time, I believe, the two of them had been on stage together. And it was really cool to see the mutual admiration, the respect for each other's work. And that was at a time when Clayton had just retired from Weiss. He spent 20 years, maybe 30. I think it was 20 years working at Weiss Publishing and producing unbelievable results with that company over that time, and was just transitioning over to Money Map Press when we held that interview. So you definitely want to watch that. We take questions from the attendees, and as in typical fashion, Clayton and of course John too didn't hold back on their answers, went really deep and gave a lot of great value. So dive into that. Also, something else I feel privileged to have gotten to do was interview Clayton for the Truth About Marketing podcast series that you can find at copychief.com/podcasts. And you can see all the different podcasts there. Look for the one with Clayton, or, you can just Google Kevin Rogers, Clayton Makepeace, and it'll come up in one of the top 3 or 4 results, that episode. It was a great conversation. And Paris Lampropoulos later told me that as much work as he's done with Clayton over the years, that he still learned a few things from that interview that he hadn't heard Clayton say before. So that made me feel really good. And it just goes to show how deep the man's well ran, right? Paris is a relentless pursuer of knowledge, and he still hadn't gotten everything Clayton had to give. So pretty cool. So let's transit. I don't know if Lori was able to. Lori, are you here? If you're here, maybe under a different name, I don't see you in the list. I'd love to bring Lori Haller on if she was able to make it. I kind of put this together last minute. And so Lori, if you are here under another name or something, potentially, would you raise your hand so I can see you at the top, and then I could bring you on. And if you didn't make it, of course, that's okay. I know this, I put this together all last minute. I just felt like, let me take a shot and see if these folks are available to share. And fortunately, some of them were. So also interviewed John Carlton yesterday for, it was for the Rally series. If you haven't seen that, copychief.com/rally is where I've been reaching out to leaders of our industry to talk to them about the pandemic. We still got a pandemic going on, and how they're instinctively responding to it. And man, some incredible conversations over there. Todd Herman, Todd Brown, Laura Belgray, James Schramko, Ryan Lee. I just spoke to John Carlton yesterday, Adrian Dorson from Run Like Clockwork, about how to work more efficiently from home with a million distractions around. And then today I am interviewing JJ Virgin. You guys may know JJ. She's a New York Times bestselling author in the health and wellness space. She's also now a business coach. So I'm really interested to hear from JJ how she's managing at home, how she's coaching some of her high-level clients to manage all this, both from a personal health and a marketing perspective. So it's all over there at the Rally page. And maybe, Tim, you can pop that up in case anybody hasn't seen it. We also, of course, have the interviews going inside the members area. And also we're offering what we're calling the Copywriting Thrive Kit. You can get that at the Rally page if you're not a member to Copy Chief. If you are a member of Copy Chief, of course, you have all these resources and more, but we're focusing on things, frameworks and templates that will help you write faster, that will help you structure messages better. Because right now we're hearing from a lot of people that they just aren't sure what to say, how to say it right now. But I'll tell you, the worst thing you can possibly say is nothing. Everybody needs to speak up and speak out right now in a time of crisis. And if you're stuck for how best to say what you want to say, I recommend heading over to the Rally page and getting that free Thrive Kit, because there's some cool frameworks in there for you to, format your messages. We also included a few things that I think will help with your mindset talks and trainings from Todd Herman in there with alter egos. This is a good time to strap on your alter ego cape or mask and get your talisman out because, you're going to have to wear a mask certain times during all this. When you're feeling scared and unsure, you got to step up and lead and help other people feel better. It's our job. It's our job as entrepreneurs. It's our job as business leaders. This is a really good time for everybody to muster more courage and step up. Don't worry about getting it perfect, but you gotta be present. So that's over there. Rhonda Britton's great talk at Copy Chief Live about how to embrace fear. Really good stuff for you over there. So hope that's all helpful. Would anybody like to come on and share? I'm sure some there's other folks here joining us in the Zoom chat who might have had a Clayton story, something that you learned from Clayton, a Clayton encounter. Anybody want to come on? Please raise your hand if you'd like to come on and share with me. All right, great. Keith Trimmels, a great friend of Copy Chief and well-experienced copywriter, marketing pro, business owner. How are you, Keith? Let me just unmute.
Because I'm on my phone here today.
Okay, buddy. No video. That's cool, man. Well, it's good good to hear you, and thanks for popping on, man.
Yeah, I posted this when we first had it before you started the official thread, and Clayton totally transformed the trajectory of my life. And it was at that event that Marcella mentioned in Denver. And first piece of copy that I kind of threw out there that had really been proofed, other than the first one that I had that Mark Ford took a shot at. But I got hot seated by Clayton with Richard Armstrong, Paris, and Marcella.
Wow.
So it was a baptism of fire, shall we say. But,
I'll say so.
But Clayton actually was very, very complimentary. And I had talked to him because of my training background. I went up and talked to him in the back room afterwards to let him know that the way he conducted that event was phenomenal, because it brought a lot of introverted people and brought them out and put them in a safe place. And he made a comment about what he saw as my raw ability. And I was a business person at that point who had an ability to kind of put words together, I guess. And it changed how I looked at everything I did, and literally and I wouldn't say a 180, but probably about 145 degree change in the trajectory that I was going. And so to say he changed my life is probably an understatement. But one thing I did want to say, because I have actually had a couple of conversations with his son Justin in the last couple of days, and Justin made a comment. It's a little emotional for me. Justin made a comment that really resonated with me because of what happened to Copy Chief, where you got to see, as a proud papa, see your son on the stage, and your son was able to see kind of the impact you have made. And Justin told me, he says, he was talking about Clayton. He was a mentor to me as my dad and all of that, and kind of my hero, but I had no idea the number of lives that he impacted outside. So I'm going to make sure when this gets popped up, I'm going to shoot that link over to Justin so he can watch it, because the kids weren't able to get back and visit him because of the COVID thing and all of that. Right. And I know it's a struggle for him. I mean, it would be a struggle in the best of times, but this has just made it worse. So that's my story.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. This made so much harder, I know, on the family, and everybody's suffering with ill families. You know, it's easy to forget because we're so focused on the virus creating illness, and we're watching that death toll daily. We're forgetting that on a given day, many people fall ill and need hospital care, and their families now are not allowed to visit with them much. I know Wendy was talking about, first thing I heard about Clayton even being ill was about his pneumonia and how she was not able to be with him for part of the time.
Right.
And man, it's just another way that everything's exasperated right now with everything going on. And so,
well, and it resonated with me because I saw you as a proud dad of your son, but I realized how important it was for your kids to see the impact that you were making in the community.
yeah,
Because oftentimes the kids, and I mean, I'm guilty of this too. My kids really don't have a big clue of what I'm doing. And I think that's pretty normal. You know, parents go to work or they do whatever. And to be able to see that is a huge blessing for you. I don't know, you know, I think if you would mention it to your kids, but for Justin to realize that his dad was, you know, he wasn't just Clayton, he was Clayton, you know.
right. Yeah, when I'm sure people would see him and see his last name, which is unmistakable, right? And their eyes would light up. And that you're right, Keith. That's a great point. It is something that feels great, and it is kind of the moment when your kids realize you're up to something special. My kids love Copy Chief Live for that reason. They love seeing their friends now over and over again. They always talk about, Tim's going to be there and Abby will be there and Rachel will be there. And, you know, and they really look forward to they see these people as family, and they get it, man. So thank you for that, Keith. And thank you for sharing this with the Makepeace family. I hope it brings them some smiles and comfort through all this.
My pleasure.
All right, brother. Take care. We'll see you inside.
You too, Kev.
Awesome. Yeah. So, man, I hate to bring more, you know, sadness, but this is life, guys. And this is the stuff that's happening. And, you know, I hope we can celebrate having each other, being together, being able to lean on each other, have these conversations, because the other thing we have to keep in mind is, as you know, as direct response marketers, as copywriters, as freelancers, we're on the outskirts of the real world, right? We all joke every day about how very few people get what we do. And you know, your neighbor down the street asks you what you do, and you make something up because it's, you know, you try to describe the boringest job that they wouldn't want more information about. You know, I'm an accountant. Oh, not that, you know, I'm sure there's some cool accountants out there, but you know what I mean? And so, you know, we're already isolated, and now, you know, everybody's isolated, and it's kind of interesting. So again, I've said this yesterday, we had a bit of a town hall yesterday and got to talk through a lot of things on how people are feeling and how we're all dealing with stuff. And it just really made me appreciate all over again how great it is to have this community, to have so many friends here. So lean on each other, reach out to each other. And the other thing is, look, there's some serious consequences sometimes for people's mental health when they're locked inside like this, right? This is unusual, even for introverts. And some people, while they may be introverted, as writers often are, really need social interaction, really need some time to be with others. And it's what makes them feel reassured and okay about things. And very few people are getting that right now. So if you know anybody who struggles with that, please reach out to them. Please just send them a text, give them a call, write them an email, ping them, and just say, how you doing? How you feeling? What's going on? You know, maybe have some laughs about stuff, and man, that'll go a long way towards helping people in all this. Speaking of helping people, you know, just get tactical for 1 second here, because as you know, the $2 trillion aid bill was passed yesterday, and everybody's scrambling to figure it out and find out, do they have money coming? How are they going to collect that money? And I was glad to hear that the first time a bill like this included freelance workers, gig workers, You know, I was driving in today and heard an interview with an Uber driver, and that, you know, they're out of work. So Abby Woodcock has been, her immediate reaction to this was to start a fund to do her best to try to get money to freelancers who suddenly, you know, found themselves without work, or still have work but have other expenses and circumstances that they never expected. And if it's okay, Ab, I'd like to bring you on and have a chat about it. And okay. There she is. Hi, Abby.
Hello, hello.
Nice to see you.
You too. Of course, I'm home with my kids and the dog, so then we may get interrupted, but
It's all right. Yeah, that's how it is. I'm lucky to have an office where it's only me here and I can actually still come. But most people don't have that. And I've been loving your Instagram updates with the kids. Calvin, you found out, has been building a fort.
Yeah, literally cutting down trees at a public park. So like,
Look what I've been doing, Ma. Okay, I think it's, come with me, son. Let's get out of here very quickly.
yeah, exactly.
Never speak of this again.
Exactly. Then I realized, I was like, oh, I put it on my Instagram. I'm like, somebody's gonna be like, evidence.
Exactly, right. Things I wish I hadn't posted.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So Abby, again, like I've been talking a lot about, you know, like we're all following our instincts, right? To react and respond when things like this happen. And I was thinking about you and how it doesn't surprise me at all that your instinct was to set up a fund, set up a, basically like a financial triage, because that's something you've done a lot of in your life through volunteering with Team Rubicon. You were an incident, I forget, IC coordinator there. And this is what you did for years. You and KC would drop what you were doing and go to the site of a disaster and start kicking ass and helping people. And so tell us about the fund and how it's going and what you've been learning from it over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. So yeah, you're exactly right. So my instinct is like, you know, let's just, you know, like make something happen. I did a lot of fundraising for Team Rubicon and a lot of other charities as well. And so I was in San Diego at Copywriter Club, which I really believe it was like the last large event in America.
Yeah,
like
right.
they made the announcement like 2 days later that they were not allowed. So I was sitting there and this was all kind of starting to break. And so created a fund, like was sitting at a bar with Marcella Allison actually, and just made it happen. Started taking donations right there at Copywriter Club. Then I opened up applications the following Monday, which was 2 weeks ago now. And so yeah, we've learned a lot. We ended up with, I just closed new applications. And the reason is we've got about $500,000 in requests.
Wow.
And I just didn't think it was fair to have people applying when there was really very little chance that people that are applying at this point would get funding. But we're working really hard to continue to get donations and fund as many people. It's just the stories that I'm, you know, reading every day going through these applications of, you know, a lot of things are happening, you know, people having medical expenses, you know, as a lot of us know, getting health insurance as a freelancer is difficult. So a lot of uninsured people, a lot of people that school, I mean, I'm in that group as well. I'm lucky that, you know, my business has done well. So even though, you know, we're having less sales than we have been the last couple of weeks, that we're okay. But a lot of people, you know, having their kids home, having to provide childcare, increasing food costs, you know, all that stuff that's happening with the kids being home and gig workers that just completely dried up. So so we're sending out $250 max for people that apply. And today we sent to our 50th freelancer, we sent funding. So that was really exciting. There's a ton more to do and a ton more. I've always been like this. This was my problem in disaster response too, is it always seems so overwhelming, the need. And so when I would go on these disasters, I would want to save, you know, an entire city by myself. And so I'm really trying to get the mindset of like, I can do what I can do. And
Right.
if I
Yeah,
can
I'm sure
help one person, that's
right.
better.
Yeah, you got to focus on what you're able to do, because there's so much of what you're not able to do right in your face every day on this flood of need. Tell me about what kind of requests you're getting. What did you expect, and what surprised you about what people need?
Yeah, so we had to pretty quickly, at first I was coming up with, just as the applications were, I was kind of prioritizing them as they come. So I was reading closely every single application. Within the first few days we had, I think like we opened it on Tuesday or Monday, and by Wednesday we had like 250 applications. So we had to pretty quickly come up with a system. Thankfully, that's Casey's wheelhouse. And so we've been kind of triaging them, ranking them with like medical and childcare needs as what we're doing first, followed by food, rent, and then kind of basically like we've even had requests for like, business expenses, like, I got to continue to pay for software and that kind of thing. And while I understand as a business owner, that's really important, we kind of prioritize the more urgent needs. We're getting requests from all over, different types of freelancers, different types of, just people are in all different situations. There's people that were in tough situations before, or was having trouble finding clients before, and that just became exponentially harder. And then there's people that had $12,000 worth of work that was booked, that was canceled. And so, it's kind of a huge range of, but yeah, it's just been a really interesting lens of like, wow, like this is affecting so many industries and so many people in such huge ways. We all have our stories of how our lives have changed over the last couple of weeks. But
Right. Yeah. And the one thing about freelancing, again, like the good news is you're free to get creative with how to find the markets where the money is right now, because they are out there. At the same time, when catastrophe happens, which is certainly this, it's not quite as easy to go apply. You can't apply for unemployment and things that other normal workers, W-2 folks do. And it kind of struck me today, Abby, that what you've done is you've Team Rubiconed this scenario, because again, who knew when you even started this that freelancers could be included in a bill that was there to provide some relief. Now we got to figure out, and I bet won't be surprised if you don't lead this charge as well, how to go apply for that money and find out if you qualify and how to do that. But in the meantime, there's things that are happening. I mean, there's, like you said, people need their medicine, people need food, people need, what was the other thing you mentioned that was so
childcare? Yeah.
Childcare. So I love that you're doing this, and it's tell us where to go if we want to donate.
Yeah, so it's freelancecoop.org. There's no dashes in that, so it's like freelancecoop.org/emergency fund. I could put that in the chat as well. And yeah, there, like I said, new applications are not open, but we're still really trying to fundraise. We have some amazing donors, from the copywriter community. Marcella Allison, the Titanides have donated a lot. Kim Krause-Swam, she did a sale on her courses for 36 hours. All the proceeds went to the emergency fund. Patrick Kenny did a free live stream series last week, and at the beginning of every live stream, offered a 15-minute consult call if people donated. So just the copywriting community is just, it's always been amazingly generous, and it's just been really exciting to kind of see, people that have stepped up and wanting to help. Yeah.
Great. Well, I appreciate you coming on to talk about it. I'll be over there today to contribute myself, and just want to appreciate you and all you're doing. And again, showing leadership, following your instincts to do what you know how to do, which is coordinate and help and provide relief. So once again, you're amazing, Abby. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you always.
All right. We'll talk soon. My best to Casey and
yes.
kids.
Right. The dog says hi as well.
And the dog. Woo-hoo. Yeah. Awesome. Woo. So again, that's a beautiful story, right? Like all we can do is see the pain, feel the pain, and respond the best way we know how. And it takes leaders like Abby to say, let me coordinate a way that everybody can help. So if you can give anything, I know she has said even $25 is, if 10 people give $25, that's $250 to one of our own who is suffering right now and really needs some help. So if you can give, please do it over at that link, and I'll be sure to post that other places. Okay, so anybody else that would want to come on and share a story, if you've been inspired through this talk today, or have a joke. Anybody got a joke? My instinct is to lighten the mood, but it's a tricky time to be sarcastic. There have been some great memes though out there, right? Like been some really funny things about people and how they're dealing with the ennui of quarantine. And so don't lose your voice in this. That's why I really appreciated the interview I had with Laura Belgray last week, because I wanted, I've been watching Laura just always finds a way to find the humor in things without looking flippant or dismissive about the reality of what's happening, and this is new territory for everybody. So don't be afraid to be who you are. And look, part of that is your best advertising. Like I've been saying, there's a lot of businesses who need copywriters right now more than ever, because they're stuck for what to say, how to pivot offers, how to become more relevant, how to be generous, how to be helpful. Everybody wants to do something, especially entrepreneurs and freelancers. We're natural born leaders. That's why we have the courage to step out and start our own business and do our own thing, and not just give us a key card and a paycheck, right? We chose the riskier route because we felt we had a bigger calling. And so we are the ones who know how to come up with ideas and craft messages and reframe existing things, pick apart and put back together puzzles. And that's what business owners need right now from us. They need our creative minds. They need our persuasive words. They need our fresh ideas for how to see opportunity and just be in voice and in tone through all this. So don't hold back and wait for people to ask you. Make it known that you have this ability, and remind people that they could really use the help with that right now. Reach out to former clients and let them know that this is how you're seeing this, and this is how you've maybe been helping some other clients. And if they need that kind of help, who better than you, if you've worked together in the past and you already know their voice and you already know their products and their offers. Melanie Warren said a great thing in one of the interviews over on the Rally page. Melanie talked about, if you're sitting there and you don't have any work right now, reach out to local businesses. And if they're open, if they're doing, say, all the restaurants that are doing carry out, offer to write an email for them. Say, are you advertising this correctly? Are you including everything you need to say to let your customers know that this is happening, right? I'll tell you one thing I've seen that there needs to be more of, is companies letting me know. Everybody's telling me free delivery right now and these things because it's necessary for them to survive. But what they're not doing is let me know what kind of safety measures they've taken to prepare the food, right? That's a big concern. I've had takeout twice now since this happened, and both times I regretted it, because I have no reason to feel comfortable that by the way the food was handed to me, that things in the kitchen, you know what I mean, are better than normal, man, I want someone in like a hazmat suit coming out to the car, open the trunk and like placing the food in the trunk. And, you know what I mean? Like, don't hand me a pen to sign a receipt right now. I can't touch a pen. Are you crazy? Right? So, we've got to, remind people that so much needs to be said. People don't speak clearly enough. People don't go out of their way to give the details that people need to feel comfortable. you know, the companies that are going out of their way to say, these are the precautions we're taking. This is what we're doing. Even the airlines, you know, it's funny. I can't help but joke, but I've gotten emails from Delta, Southwest, other airlines saying, here's what we're doing. Number one, we're going to clean the planes really good. I'm like, oh, you mean you haven't been cleaning them as good as you could until now? That's unfortunate, right? But okay, I guess now we'll clean them good, you know. But at least they're telling me, right? At least it gives me a little bit of comfort that, God forbid, I have to fly during all this, because that's going to be nerve-wracking enough, that at least I can look for clues that they're doing everything possible to sanitize the plane, you know. So be creative, be inventive, reach out, be loud, be a leader. Reach out to your market, your clients, your industry. Let them know that you're the kind of person they need. That's what I've been doing in my emails to the list. This week, next week, it's going to continue inviting people to come hire a copy chief copywriter, reminding them all the ways a copywriter could be helping them right now, reminding them that if they're nervous about hiring copywriters because they've gotten burned in the past or anything like that, that copy chief is the place to come to meet a copywriter. We'll show you we'll talk to you about how to price. We'll talk to you about how to vet a copywriter, how to onboard a copywriter. Let us help you connect with a copywriter, because right now you need copywriters more than ever in your business. So that's the message. And I condone you doing the same thing personally. Reach out to all your clients and let them know if you have availability. I know a lot of copywriters are more booked than ever as a result of this, but as Abby pointed out, a lot more are struggling too. So don't wait around for anyone else to solve your problem. If aid is there, certainly take it. But again, we're fortunate that we get to be nimble and inventive and creative and find ways to create offers that people want. So just like you do it for your clients, do it for yourself during all this. All right. Okay. Thanks for being here, everybody. I love you. I appreciate you. We are here for you. Thank you so much to Marcella and David for coming on to share some memories about Clayton Makepeace. Rest in peace, Clayton. You had an incredible impact on so many people in ways that I'm sure we'll never fully even know. I'm sure you did a lot of things behind the scenes that changed a lot of lives. And we as an industry and as your fellow copywriters tip our hats and bow our heads and want to honor your memory. So thank you, everybody. Be strong this weekend. Try to have some laughs, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.